Morning, everybody. How we doing? Welcome. We'll let people hop on today. And thanks for joining us. Today is another day at the, what are we calling this? The Diabetes Reversal Webinar, AKA the Low Blood Sugar Webinar, Type 2 Webinar. Give people a minute here to join on. So welcome. Tell us where you're calling in from today. Glad to see you. If you're joining us on Zoom, hop in the chat, say hello, tell us where you're calling in from. Tell us how the weather's been where you are. I'll tell you what, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, we had a record high yesterday of 96 degrees, which was fantastic in the shade anyways. All right, well, glad to have you here. And I would like to just first of all welcome you and let you know that we do this every Tuesday at noon Central, and normally we have Dr. Scott Saunders with us. He's not able to make it today due to a funeral in the family, but we are excited to have my good friend Dana Cushing join us. And Dana is a registered nurse and a health coach and a functional nutrition educator. And so we're going to get into all sorts of good discussions today. A little bit about Dana. Some of her favorite things start with the letter F, which are very similar to mine. So we got faith, family, friends, furry people, flowers, fitness, and coffee. Which, coffee has two F's in it. It just doesn't start with F. So welcome, Dana. It's great to have you with us.
Hey, thank you, Joe.
All right. So, so we're going to get into this. And if you're watching this, we'd love to have your participation. If you ever have any questions along the way for Dana, feel free to put that in the chat or in the Q&A section. And it looks like we're also live on Facebook. So welcome, Facebook friends. And enter in the comments. And Leslie is manning the ship here and will be filling us in with any questions that come in. So we probably won't be able to get into medical questions necessarily, just because Dr. Saunders is obviously, certified medical doctor in that regard. But we're happy to talk about all things food and low carb and functional nutrition and health. So that's what we're going to get into. So Dana, why don't you just go ahead and start and kick us off and tell us about yourself and tell us a bit of your story.
Sure. So like you said, I am a registered nurse. I've been in women's health for about 22 years, and recently I just took the leap of faith and I am doing full-time health and wellness coaching online right now. So my journey started with just trying to find ways to eat what I thought would be healthier. And I came across many recipes and everything just seemed to be leaning lower carbohydrate. And that has led me to removing some of the sugar that I was completely addicted to without even knowing it. Sugar had a pretty strong grip on me, and it's just been quite a journey figuring out how can I still eat food that I love while removing the sugar. And it's not a perfect process, but boy, do I feel better. And it's nice to not feel so controlled by craving sugar all of the time. So,
hey, raise your hand, everyone, if you've ever had a sugar addiction. Like I got both mine up in the air. Yeah, there's something about sugar. I often wonder, like, why does sugar taste so good? It's not good for us, but
it lights up the dopamine receptors in our brain. And like any other addiction, we need more and more to get that sugar high. Mm-hmm. And when our blood sugars go up and down, then we need more to fix that high again. So as we take the sugar out and our blood sugars become more steady, then we can quit craving it as much.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about what sugar does to our health.
Sure. So when we eat sugar, and sugar comes in many forms, it's not just ice cream and chocolate, and bread that we know that turn to sugar. There's actually 4 categories of carbohydrates, and carbohydrates at some point all turn to sugar. So the first category of carbs, that's the breads and starch category. And that's your bagels, muffins, even 22 whole grain organic bread.
My favorite.
Once we swallow that bread, it's going to turn to sugar. Peas, potatoes, corn, that would fall in that starchy category. Rice, pasta, like the winter squashes like butternut and acorn are starchy. That's the first category of carbs that will turn to sugar. Fruit, we've all been told, eat your fruit and vegetables. Well, we have to separate veggies from fruits. Fruits are not inherently bad. They just, once we swallow fruit, they turn to sugar, and we eat them all the time. If you think way back, we didn't have access to apples and bananas 365 days a year. We maybe ate them towards the end of the summer, and it was berries, and they were very tart. They aren't sweet like they are, like we've modified them to be now. So just being aware of fruit and the impact it can have on blood sugar is important. It doesn't mean don't ever eat fruit, but maybe on the day you're going to eat fruit, choose berries. They just won't turn to sugar as fast. The third category of carbs that turns to sugar is milk. Everybody wants the milk mustache, but actually in 1 cup of milk or 8 ounces, there's 12 grams of sugar. And that is equal to 3 teaspoons. If you think of those little sugar cubes that you stole out of your grandma's sugar cube dish, that would be 3 sugar cubes in 1 8-ounce glass of milk. And then the final category of carbs or sugar would be the sweet treats, cakes, popcorn, candy, any of those sweet treats. So those 4 categories of carbohydrates all turn to sugar. And when that sugar comes down, right here, it goes all the way down into our stomach. Some sugar comes to our muscles so we can move, comes up to our brain so we can think. But when we have leftover sugar, it's going to come down to the liver to be stored. The storage form of sugar is called glycogen. But our liver only has so much room to store sugar. And once the liver is full, it's like, whoa, wait, I don't have any more room for this sugar that you're giving me. Even if it's that 22 whole grain organic bread, it's going to spill out of the liver, the sugar does. And it will either turn into body fat, blood fat, triglycerides, or it'll come back to the cells and say, hey, can I come in here, sugar? And your cells are like, I'm full. I don't have any more room for this sugar that you've eaten. So then it stays out in our blood. The sugar stays in our blood and makes our blood sticky, kind of like maple syrup or honey. We want our blood to be like water, because for oxygen and nutrition to get all the way to our fingertips or down to our toes, or if you think about the vessels behind your eye are about the width of a strand of hair, we need our blood to be like water to nourish our eyeballs. But if it's like maple syrup or honey, we can't get the oxygen to our eyeballs, and that's way down the road that we'll end up with diabetic blindness. We end up with tingly fingers because our blood's too sticky to get to our fingertips. So the goal is to not have sticky blood by putting those 4 categories of foods that turn to sugar in our body. How do we get our blood to not be sticky without medicine? Eat less of the 4 things that turn to sugar. And that means you get to eat more protein and more fat. Does that make sense?
That's probably one of the best descriptions of what works, how sugar works and stuff that I've ever heard. So yeah, that's awesome.
Good.
Yeah, no, that was great.
Good.
Because people with type 2, yeah, your eyes, your fingers, your feet, all those things are affected, and people lose their sight, higher risk of heart attack and stroke and amputation. And so, yeah, and that's how it works. Your blood sugar levels just are too high, and your blood gets too sticky and thick, basically, and it just can't circulate. So
yes,
yeah,
no,
that's excellent.
You mentioned the heart. We've been told for so long, for good cardiovascular health, don't eat fat, don't eat salt. Actually, we need to quit fearing fat and salt. we need to be afraid of sugar. Sugar is what's damaging the lining of our vessels in our heart. It's not the fat and salt.
Mm-hmm.
So not only will you improve your blood sugars, your eye health, brain health, you also improve your heart health. And many people are able to lower their blood pressure medications with their physician's help, because when we eat less sugar, we lose fluid volume. Can I explain that just a little bit, Joe?
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. So high blood pressure. Oh, you're eating too much salt. Actually, for every 1 gram of sugar that you eat, or carbs, so organic whole grain bread or a Snicker bar, okay, here's a carbohydrate, 3 grams of water is going to attach. And as you start to pull out that carbohydrate source, it's going to go away. So we're losing 3 grams of water with 1 gram of carb. So just think, if you eat 20 less carbs a day, you're losing about 60 grams of water. And guess what? When we have less fluid for our heart to pump around, our blood pressure gets to go down. Voila, magic. We didn't need blood pressure pills in the first place. We need to lower our blood sugar, lowers the insulin, and our heart doesn't have to work so hard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about insulin some more, because that's very important. Like, that's one of the key hormones and things that we have to know about.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when we're eating those carbohydrate foods, our blood sugar goes up. And for our body to deal with blood sugar, we have a hormone, and it's called insulin. Insulin's going to come from the pancreas, grab onto that blood sugar, and go put it into a cell. And so often with diabetes, typically physicians will say, well, you've run out of insulin. But actually, we have too much insulin floating around in our body, and our cells just don't know what to do with it. Think of this. If you go into a noisy gathering and it's just very loud when you step into that room, you're like, oh, it's so loud in here. But as you've been at the gathering for a while, you just kind of don't notice it anymore. That's the same thing that's happening with our cells. Initially, our cells will respond to that insulin, but then if we have so much sugar that we're taking in and all the insulin is there, our cells have earmuffs on, and they just don't even hear the call for insulin. And one more thing about insulin, we need insulin. It often will get a bad rap, but we need insulin, right? But when insulin is high, because blood sugar is high, fat burning is completely off. And so often with diabetes, it's hard to manage our weight with that. But as you lower blood sugar, insulin starts to come down. And when insulin and blood sugar are down, because you're not eating the carbohydrates, then your body says, oh, I need energy from a different source, and I'm going to go tap into what we have stored for later. Mm-hmm. We can't access our later unless insulin and blood sugar are down.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, a little quick housekeeping here. So if you're joining us not live, then you may not be registered for this webinar, and you can do that by going to bartonwebinar.com. So Barton spelled like this on my new shirt, bartonwebinar.com, and you can register there. Also, on that page, we talk about the Diabetes Solution Kit, which you can purchase from that site as well. And we do offer some supplements that many of our viewers are already familiar with, Synachroma and Nervala. The mirrors are backwards here. So, and then also, Dana, I wanted to just give your information quick here. If people want to get a hold of you, you've got a lot of awesome things going on. I love to see your stories that you post every day on Facebook and Instagram. Sharing recipes and sweet treats that you share that are low carb sweet treats and other things. So if you go to your favorite social media channel and search Dana Cushing Health, you should be able to find her and follow her there. So Dana, D-A-N-A, and Leslie will post this in the chat, Dana Cushing, C-U-S-H-I-N-G, and Health. So that was probably the easiest way to find you, as well as danacushinghealth.com. So there we go. And let's see. Yeah, if you're watching us live, feel free to ask questions. We'll get to those a little bit later on the call today. And so, yeah, good stuff. Let's talk a little bit about, well, I really like how you covered and talked about, sugar and insulin and all that. Let's take a quick little bunny trail here to alternatives to carb, sweet foods and things like that. What are some fun, good,
Sure.
healthy, low carb sweets that you like to make?
Sure. So I used to eat a Reese's peanut butter cup bar every day during high school. When I was marathon training several years ago, a Snicker bar. And if I had only known how much sugar I was eating, oh my goodness. But when we know better, we can do better. So, it's just taking a look at the labels is going to be really important. Take a peek at how many grams of sugar are in the foods that you're considering eating. But while we're transitioning off of sugar, there are some nice alternatives. For my Reese's peanut butter cup craving, if I'm not actually making the recipe, most grocery stores carry Lily's. Lily's is a nice brand with, they use stevia only. And here's a chocolate peanut butter cup, sugar-free. So, it's not something that I would recommend every day, but let's be real. We have a sweet craving, and this is a nice way to satisfy it. Another option is, I used to love Almond Joy candy bars, but there's 22 grams of sugar in those 2 little bars. So that's 5.5 teaspoons of sugar that you would be getting in a bar. So you eat the bar and, oh, it feels great, you have energy, but a half an hour later, our blood sugars are crashing. Rather than that, you could do, again, I have some Lily's milk chocolate chips. And I will just take maybe a tablespoon or 2 of these and put them in a Ziploc baggie with almonds or whatever your favorite nut is, even like sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, and a little bit of unsweetened coconut. And you just have to make sure that it's unsweetened because often most coconut has the sugar coating, but this unsweetened coconut will give you that nice Almond Joy flavor without the sugar.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, and it was funny, you posted on your story the other day, you were making carmelitas, and you were showing like the stages from mixing the ingredients and having the bars, ready to go into the oven, and then you cooked them. And I just messaged like, I need some of those, and little did I know that my son was over at your house visiting. Yeah, your daughter, which they've been dating for 3 years or over 3 years now. So that was, which is kind of cool. But I didn't even realize he was over there, and you're like, well, I'll send some home with Cedric. So I got to enjoy them, and I protected them I hid them from the boys and had them on my bedstand. I let Amanda have one, but
that was nice of you.
Yeah, but those were delicious. So
Good.
Yeah, having recipes like that is, I think, really important because, we do want sweets, and having stuff like that, to be able to have that and not to, spike your blood sugar and have those issues with it. It's like, that's a win. So.
And, so often food is our love language. If we're happy, oh my gosh, let's celebrate, or we're sad, or we're bored. It's just food tends to be very emotional. And if we can enjoy foods that fill that void without the sugar, that's going to be that's the ticket.
Yeah.
Because I used to be that mom. My kids would come home from a snowy day at school, chocolate chip cookies, hot chocolate, brownies. I was just serving them a load of sugar, but it was my way of showing love to them when really that's the last thing that they needed.
Yeah.
So now I make brownies from All Day I Dream About Food website, and they are amazing. And I have 3 teenagers that give me the 2 thumbs up on them.
Does Cedric eat those?
I don't know if he's tried those.
Ah,
I'll
okay.
have to make them for him and
You
see what
might
he
have
says.
to. Maybe I can
Yeah,
rip one off of
yeah.
it.
And
Yeah.
then I'll send some home for you too, Joe.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, you talked about emotional eating, and that is a huge factor. We have a customer of ours in the past. It was kind of an interesting story. So she bought our product, and then she, I think, posted something somewhere and wasn't happy with us. And so I just reached out to her and tried to find out what was going on. And it turns out she was just really kind of struggling with everything. And so as I got to know her a little bit, we ended up becoming good friends. And but she shared how, like, one of her deepest emotional desires, or needs that she had, or most strongest connection she had, was with her son, her adult son, when he would come home to visit. And she just wanted to bless him and treat him and make him feel good. So she was cooking bars and candies and whatever else. And like you said, just you want to be a good mom or dad, and make people feel good. But yeah, it's that emotional attachment that's hard to overcome, I guess. But I love how you provide healthy alternatives to that, so you don't lose that connection. So
Because food will always connect us.
yeah.
I mean, it's just how can we make it a healthier connection? I mean, even you think when kids get good grades or they did, awesome in sports, what are we doing? We're going to Dairy Queen or somewhere, and we just have to kind of reel that back in and think, do we have to reward with food?
Hmm.
But so often for many, it's part of our emotional management system. It's food is our EMS. So the goal is, what can be your new EMS? If it's not going to be food anymore, how can you handle those emotions? Can you go for a walk? Can you journal? Can you pray, meditate? Anything to start to rewire your brain, because food is so powerful. It will have a grip until we can lower that sugar and lose some of that addiction that we have to it. But while we're lowering that, it's important to focus on, how else can I handle my emotions? What will my new emotional management system be? And I can't take credit for the EMS. Dr. Robert Sivas out of Florida is a bariatric surgeon, and he calls himself the carb addiction doc, and is providing a lot of helpful resources to people changing their emotional management system.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's good stuff. All right. So, okay, this is another little bunny trail. So let's say we've got somebody that's on the road and they're traveling with their family this summer. Things are opening up in the country again, and we're going on a road trip. And we want to grab a quick lunch, drive-through.
Yep.
Let's say we go to McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's or something like that, because that's all there is around there for whatever reason.
Yep.
What do you recommend? How does somebody stay low carb and still get a satisfying meal at a place like that?
So I did this back in February. Actually, the only option was Culver's or Hardee's. And my choice was Culver's, and you can do this at McDonald's, wherever you're at. I ordered a double cheeseburger and a chicken sandwich. And the other dance mom in the car with me said, "Who else are you getting food for?" I said, "That's for me. I'm going to eat that double cheeseburger without the bun." And I took the chicken off the bun,
Mm.
and I got nice and full. Actually, I probably had to have a little Lily's for dessert with it, because everyone else in the car had fries and I wasn't doing the fries. But that is, if you can prioritize protein, so beef, chicken, fish, tuna, eggs, beef jerky, prioritize that protein, feel full with fats. That is how you are going to navigate traveling and going through drive-throughs this summer. And you can go to any restaurant and you can prioritize protein.
Yeah.
So that's always the ticket. And we, as Americans, we don't get enough protein. And protein is a structure for our hair, skin, nails, tendons, muscles, joints, our bones. The foundation of our bones is protein. And we don't want to be, 80 years old and hunched over like this. Protein is going to keep us upright. So focus your meal on protein, add the healthy fats in, and it's going to make your brain feel satisfied and your stomach.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I like how you said prioritize protein. That's easy to remember, the P's, and then feel full with fats.
And then control the carbs.
Control the carbs.
PPFFCC.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, Ben Binkman, professor out of Brigham Young University, I believe he coined that, or Ted Naiman, he's a physician with the Protein Energy book that he has out. So that is not mine.
Mm-hmm. I was looking at a nutrition label earlier and it had like 2 grams of carbs in it, but then I looked at the percent daily value, or maybe it was 6 grams of carbs, and it said that was 2% of the daily value, which means you could have 50 times that according to the standard American diet, which
Right.
50 times 6 is 300 grams of carbs in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just way too many carbs,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's why we're in the situation we're in. But our current food guidelines, which 2020 is the year for new food guidelines, it says to have 45 to 60% of our calories coming from carbohydrates. We have to, why is that? Well, the foundation of our economy is corn, wheat, and soy. So it's a political guideline rather than a nutrition guideline.
Yeah. It is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the whole milk, you mentioned the milk mustache, that whole campaign was
Right.
pretty much political. And
Right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the dairy farmers right now are struggling because the schools have been out for 2 months early. So they've been dumping milk and all that. But when you think about it, milk is full of sugar, and it's not good to be giving our kids that much sugar every day, all the time. So it's just making people susceptible to diabetes and prediabetes at a younger age.
And we've been thinking, skim milk, we always thought that was the right thing. But if we're going to do milk, do the whole product. Do it how God intended for us to receive the product. And that is with all of the fat and the vitamins and the minerals, because it'll actually blunt that sugar response then if there's some fat along with it. But skim milk, it's like liquid 12 grams or 3 teaspoons of sugar coming right in.
Yeah, they take put the sugar in to make it taste better.
Yeah, same thing with yogurt. People feel yogurt is so healthy. You take a peek at those labels before you buy yogurt. My favorite yogurt is either just like a plain Greek, whether you do a full fat or a no fat yogurt, it doesn't matter as long as it's plain. Too Good yogurt only has 2 grams of sugar. So that's a really nice option to do for yogurt if people want that. So
good. All right, Leslie, I'm gonna turn it over to you a little bit here. If you have any questions yourself for Dana, or if any that have come in from our guests with us today. So.
I would just say, as a mom, I'm often feeling guilty, like I'm depriving my kids of sweets, and then I go completely off the other end, and I'm like, oh, just let them have it all, because I never give it to them. And I feel like even now, I feel like you gave me a little bit of permission to be like, okay, it's okay to have fun and still have those good meals, but to do it smart.
Yes.
So, because yes, a lot of memories do revolve around food. And also, we're at the age where our kids are young and all their friends are coming over. And my mom and my son's always like, Mom, you always have the weird food, So
yes.
I'm like, I don't want to be that mom to all their friends, but it's nice to know. I'm like, okay, even that brownie recipe, I'm like, hey, I could do this, so, and I like brownies too. So
absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Yes. Yeah, you're welcome.
I was just going to mention here that Patrick has been on many of our webinars. He's a great customer of ours. I was just going to mention this. He said he had a mild stroke on May 15th. And so now he is working hard to lose weight, blood sugar down, etc. So we're super excited for you, Patrick, and you can do this.
Yeah, you got this, Patrick.
Let's see. Shoba is on. We have a lot of our friends are on. It's always so fun when you guys hop on here. Okay, this is a great question from Krish. Krish is one of our friends as well. Meatless burger has been in talk and people consume. Is this truly a better alternative? How much calcium is needed per day? Okay, 2 questions there.
Yep.
So,
Okay. Meatless burger. My position is no, thank you. If you would look at the ingredient list on that meatless burger, half of the ingredients we can't pronounce. We've just been told for so long, red meat, it's going to cause health concerns, when really there isn't any information. There is not one evidence-based research study to support that. Meat is good for us. It's going to provide us more nutrition than we could ever ask for. So stick with the real meat. And then as far as calcium, I can't give a prescriptive amount of calcium. I believe the RDA is up like 1,200 milligrams daily, but without being prescriptive on that. So
sure. Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything else in here. Everyone's saying hi, which is awesome.
That reminds me that we should give a quick little disclaimer that this webinar is for informational purposes only. So
yes, thank you.
We always share a disclaimer, I believe, I don't know if we actually do in the YouTube description or not, but anyways, we've said it before, and everyone is different, and so none of this is prescriptive. Any changes in medications or food or whatever should be consulted with your own health practitioner. So there we go.
Okay, so this is a good question. We did kind of talk about this, but the question comes from our friend Carrie. She says, is fruit sugar considered healthy sugar?
So I tend to look at it when I'm helping people with weight and blood sugar management that sugar is sugar. But is fruit sugar better than a Snicker bar? Sure, as long as we're eating less of it. We don't have to make fruit bad. We just need to be aware, especially the higher sugar fruits like bananas, mangoes. Dried fruit is like pure sugar, so I encourage you to stay away from that as much as possible. The fruit sugar that I am okay with would be from the berries: blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, raspberries. That's going to be the lowest in sugar. We don't need to eat fruit every day. Eat it when you're active. If you've had an extra active day of walking or just a little more activity, allow yourself some fruit. Enjoy it. Don't feel guilty if your blood sugars are okay. If your blood sugars are high, though, I would not recommend eating fruit, because your cells are saying there's too much sugar, so don't put more in, even if it's from the healthiest of fruit. Fruit sugar is fructose, and it will still impact our blood sugar.
Let's maybe talk a little bit about how many vegetables are you actually eating in a day? I also sometimes feel guilty, and I'll get like a fruit vegetable type drink for my kids, but there's so much fruit in them. They're mostly fruit. And luckily they're eating more broccoli and stuff like that. But I'm just curious how much fruit or how many vegetables you're eating in a day. And, how do you feel about those drinks, or, even in like a capsule form to substitute for some of the vegetables that we might not be eating?
I really feel that if we can get our kids to eat, or our families in general, to eat more protein, there is so much nutrition in red meat, chicken, eggs, fish, that vegetables are important to increase, the diversity in our gut. But I eat vegetables once or twice a day. And some days I eat more than others. I try not to stress out about that. The thing that I really just try to focus on is make sure I have my meat ready to go, and then add veggies as I need it. And roasting broccoli, I'm glad your kids like broccoli. You can roast cauliflower, sprinkle cheese on it. Cheese is not going to impact blood sugar for the most part. Some people do get an insulin response from cheese, so you have to monitor your own blood sugars and figure out what works for you. But if you're trying to get more veggies into your family, don't fear cheese for the kiddos for the most part. And then as far as the fruit juice or the fruit and veggie drinks, like if you're going somewhere to purchase one, locally, I requested sugar information from a local juice place in Sioux Falls. They would not tell me the sugar content of their juice. They said I could contact a manager if I needed that information. So I kind of went through and I made one, just what the ingredients are, and it came up with about 70 grams of sugar in one of their drinks. So
How many calories are in something like that? Like,
oh gosh, upwards of 500
wow.
easily, depending, but many of them are 500 and it's 70 grams of sugar, carbs or sugar. So it's they're a detriment to our health, despite what we think. I mean, when I didn't know better, I had the mug. Like I was a frequent flyer to a local juice place because I was eating healthy because I didn't know.
Yeah.
So we just have to figure out a different way of helping people understand what is actually healthy, because so many people are just, it's confusing.
Yeah, I think I know which juice place you're talking about, because that used to be my go-to after a workout. I would go get a chocolate bench press, and I asked him early on, like, okay, how many carbs are in this? And I think, and he's like, I don't know for sure, but it's like 200 calories. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Right. Good catch.
I'm like,
you get the,
because it's ice cream and bananas and
right.
the protein powder. So I'm pretty sure each of those have quite a bit of sugar in it. So.
Yeah, Tour de France was my favorite, and loaded.
Yeah.
Loaded. But when we know better, we can do better. So.
Right.
And that's not saying that you can't ever have those things.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would just
every day.
Right. I would be mindful of your carbs. Let's say you had a really low carb day and you want to split it, maybe 20, however big they are, split it with the family, and still then you can enjoy it. You all can be like, oh, this is great, but without such a sugar hit of everybody having their own.
Right.
Hey, let me just encourage, if you're watching this, could you put in the chat or in the comments, just tell us something that one of your takeaways from our call today, because we've had a lot of good nuggets from this. So any takeaways, any action steps, anything that you learned that was helpful for you, we'd love to get your feedback on that. So, and also, all right, I was going to just mention something and get your thoughts on this, Dana, but
yes,
a friend of mine who is very much healthy and into nutrition and runs a health business, he stopped eating vegetables and salads. Like he used to eat them with every meal, but he had digestive issues with them. So he pretty much cut it all out, and he really just went to mostly like a carnivore diet, mostly meat, and his digestion improved greatly. He said it was like night and day difference. Have you seen that? And could you maybe explain why that might be for some people?
Yeah, I didn't know if we wanted to tread into that water or not, but I've experimented with a few less vegetables myself. I used to eat a huge glass mixing bowl salad twice a day, broccoli, cauliflower, all of the healthy veggies. But I was having trouble with my digestion as well. And we just don't have the capacity to digest the plant fibers like we would hope to. So people do experience some improvements with their digestion and still can maintain good bowel health without the veggies. That's very contradictory to what we hear, but we have to do what works for us. It doesn't mean like you couldn't have some veggies, but maybe if you're having digestive trouble or bloating was my main symptom why I quit eating so much broccoli and cauliflower and my big salads. And that went down, that improved significantly. But so I took a little break from them, have added them back now, and I seem to tolerate them just a little better. So we all have leaky guts, the little tiny micro tears in our intestines, and that's why we're just not able to tolerate food maybe like we used to.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yep. So,
so we're going to start wrapping up here a little bit, but I saw you posted, so you're a health coach and you had one of your clients that had tremendous success. I think she started with you like in September this last year, and
Yeah,
she dropped like 60 pounds. And tell
yeah,
us a little bit about her story and what she
sure.
accomplished.
Sure. So when she started with me, 68 years old, her hemoglobin A1C, oh gosh, was she 7.2 or 8? I can't remember what it was, but she was on a mission to not go on insulin because her husband is currently using insulin. And I explained to her what sugar does in the body, kind of what we talked about today. And she said for some reason it just clicked with her. She gave up sugar that day, reduced her carbohydrates significantly, and now as of this week she's down 60 pounds. She got off of her diabetes medication. She does still take metformin, but got off of her diabetes med, and her hemoglobin A1C is 5.4. And she feels like this is a lifestyle that she can maintain. And one little note that I didn't put in the when I shared her story, she's Italian. She
Ah,
loves bread, loves pasta. That's a part of her that, it's a part of her. So if my sweet little Italian lady can give up her bread and her noodles, I really feel like anybody can start to, focus less on bread and noodles that
yeah,
we all love.
that's awesome. Well, great
Mhm.
work. Great work
Yeah,
to her doing that and to you helping her through that. So
thank
that's
you.
awesome. In just a minute, we'll tell people if they want to learn more and potentially work with you, we'll give some information. Leslie, just let me know. We do have a question or two that have come through, and for some reason, I don't see them on my computer here. So I'll let Leslie take
Yeah,
those.
these are good. How about dates to replace sugar?
Um, if you would take a look at the package of dates, so dates are dried fruit. It's a whole food, yes. And like if you've ever done a Whole30 type of diet, those dates are allowed. I've done it. I lived off Lara bars for a very long time.
Yeah, I do.
But yep, the sugar content, if you're trying to lower your blood sugar, I would not do dates.
Okay. And then how about almond milk?
Sure. So almond milk is a great replacement to milk. You just have to look and make sure that it's unsweetened almond milk. If you get the regular almond milk, it's going to have 16 grams of sugar per cup. So 4 cubes of sugar rather than milk, which has 3 cubes of sugar. The marketing and advertising can get us thinking, oh, it's almond milk, it's healthy, but they're still putting sugar in it. So look for unsweetened almond milk. And there's even unsweetened vanilla, which that's what I buy from Costco. And I'll use that in my protein ice cream that I make, or just a protein shake. So yes, good option. As long as you tolerate nuts. There's unsweetened cashew milk, unsweetened coconut milk, all kinds of different milks coming out.
Okay, good. A couple more things. This was interesting. Joe, you can speak a little bit about this. Thanks for this meeting. Do you encourage intermittent fasting, and do you drink water during the fasting?
I just experimented with that myself yesterday. So Dr. Saunders is a definite proponent of intermittent fasting, and he also says if you really want to like maximize results, is to fast from water as well for a day. And so I tried it yesterday and did pretty good through the first most of the day, and then I worked out at like 2:15. And then by 3:45, I'm like, okay, I need water. So I
Mhm.
did have like 1 cup of water yesterday. But yeah, Dana, what are your thoughts on intermittent fasting, and how does that help people?
Mhm. So I think it's a great new buzzword for what we evolved to do. Um, if you think about it, we didn't have access to food all the time. We maybe had a couple hours during the day that we were eating, and then the rest of the time we were roaming and searching for food. So let's say intermittent fasting, there's many different types. You can time restrict your meals, so you're eating like in an 8-hour window. You can eat, do a 5-2, which 5 days of regular eating with 2 low-calorie days. Or you can do the extended fast, which Joe, you were doing. I find that intermittent fasting with a window, that's the easiest for most people to start to adjust to. And why I like it, because let's say we quit eating after supper time, no bedtime snack ice cream. If you want ice cream, just have it right after supper, a low carb ice cream preferably, but eat it with your meal. So 7 o'clock, we're done eating. Go to bed at 10. Our blood sugar is nice and coming down, rather than, oh, before I go to bed, boom, my blood sugars are going to come up again. So we're done eating at 7. The blood sugars are smooth sailing. They're low all night long. And then rather than looking at our watch going, oh, it's 8 o'clock, it's time for breakfast, even though we're not hungry, guess what? Our blood sugar and our insulin still low, smooth sailing down here. And if we can make it until 11, even 10:30, 11, noon, our blood sugar and insulin have stayed low, and our body says, well, you're not giving me anything, so now I'm going to come to what we have stored for later. So absolutely, I think intermittent fasting is a great tool to add along with a low carbohydrate diet.
Awesome.
I just saw that message, Leslie, from Larry. So, hey, Larry. So a question about when to progress from phase 1 to phase 2 in the diabetes solution kit program that we talk about in the diabetes solution kit. And so Dr. Saunders in the past has said, once you get your blood sugar numbers, your fasting blood sugar numbers under 100 consistently for, I think he said 3 weeks, then you can increase your carbs. I think, so phase 1 is 20 grams of carbs or less. And then phase 2, I think, is up to 40 to 60, somewhere in there maximum. And so you really just kind of have to gauge that yourself, continue taking your blood sugars and see what it does. Ideally you're under 100. Dana, you can talk about that too. Like, what do you tell your clients about that?
I think that's great, Joe. If consistently your blood sugars are running under 100, but often I have people that they just can't progress as high of carb as they would like. So they stay more in that 30 to 40, maybe 50 gram carb range, but it differs for everybody. Some people are so fortunate if they follow, less than 20 carbs for an extended time. Then you gain metabolic flexibility, which you can be a sugar burner and a fat burner at the same time. So it really is so individualized, and you just really checking those blood sugars will be critical to see how is your body going to respond. I have a client who could eat a half a cup of grapes and it did not bump her blood sugar. Because I told her, no grapes, we can't do grapes, but she's proved to me that her blood sugar didn't bump with it. So, it's very individualized.
She's lucky.
I know. She's rare. She's very rare.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good. So yeah, it's individual, and keep testing your numbers and have fun with those finger pricks. Right. So
yeah, we all need a continuous glucose monitor. I wish that's my next thing. I'm going to get one of those.
Yeah, that sounds a lot better. It's like one poke, right? For a month or a week or something?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of poking my finger, but I usually do it every day just to kind of monitor things.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Dana. Yes. And could you tell people how can they get a hold of you, and tell us also about the program that you offer to people?
Sure. So I think it's in the, Leslie's got it in the notes, it's danacushinghealth.com, or on Instagram or Facebook, you can search Dana Cushing. I would love to connect with anybody who is looking for support with weight or blood sugar management. I do offer, it's a 3-month program where we would have a 1-hour consult, and then I do 10 follow-up half-hour phone calls, and just talking about improving our health, not just with nutrition, but with movement, sleep, and stress. How are your relationships? Because all of those components are going to impact blood sugar response. So just in that 3-month program, it's my goal to help you achieve and connect you to your highest form of health, all with a foundation of love and grace, because we have so much guilt for where we're at with our health. And it's just taking a step back and being okay with where we're at and the fact that we're ready to begin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Having a coach is so important. And you think about like, do I really need a coach? But like Michael Jordan, you know, he's been on TV with The Last Dance and, you know, the Chicago Bulls. And I mean, even the best basketball player in the world hired his own coach and personal trainer because of the accountability and just like making sure he's staying on top of his game and getting, you know, maximizing all that he can to be the best he can be. So coaching is so important. And so if you're watching this, if you're struggling, if you would love to have accountability and someone that can help you through obstacles and achieve your best health, like highly recommend Dana here. And so, Dana, it's been awesome to have you on here, and hope to have you back with us soon as well. So
Awesome. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Leslie.
Yes, this has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. And we'll be back at it again next Tuesday. I believe Dr. Saunders will be back as well. So thanks for joining us. Visit us at bartonwebinar.com if you'd like to register to be on the Zoom call next week live and get your questions answered. And yeah, check out Dana Cushing on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, danacushinghealth.com, and all that. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. God bless. And we'll see you next time.